Okay, so today's guest is named Violetta Zironi. So I'm just going to read her bio from her Wikipedia page to introduce her today. So Violetta Zironi is an Italian singer-songwriter and actress. In 2013, she took part in season 7 of the Italian version of The X Factor. She reached the final and finished third. In 2020, she starred in the Netflix original film Rose Island. In December 2021, at a time when she was considering leaving the music industry, she learned about music NFTs and decided to pursue releasing her music on the Ethereum blockchain. So she's now doing ordinals on Bitcoin. So this is really why we paid interest to hers, because she's doing some really cool things, paving the way as an independent artist on Bitcoin. Unfortunately, the interview got cut a bit short, but it's still a really good interview and it's still a decent amount of time. So please welcome Violetta.
Hey, Violetta, what's going on?
GM, bright and early for me, late at night for you guys.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, full
but
reverse.
yeah, here we are. How's it going?
Good.
Can I ask a question just to start
Yeah.
off? I've just been going through like your page and your past and stuff, Violetta, and I just have some questions. But I wanted to ask you first, like, what really got you onto putting your music on chain? Like, I saw on your profile that your mum like got you into it, but then you seem like pretty passionate about it as well. And I kind of want to ask you about that, like what led you there and how and why.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for the question. And yeah, good morning, everyone in the audience as well. Repost the space. Yeah, let's get more people in here. So yeah, my mom definitely is the one who suggested at first that I looked into the blockchain as a medium to put out my music. And that's because, I was professionally making music for about 8 years um, as an independent. And we all know, the issues with the music industry outside of the space. Um, and then with the COVID pandemic, it got even worse, obviously, because performing became almost impossible. And and then, yeah, I was pretty much about to quit as a career, music as a career, not, of course, not music as a thing, but trying to pursue it as a career. And then she suggested, because she'd heard, in the news, it was late 2021. So, it was that peak of the last bull market. Um, I mean, yeah, I've become really passionate about it because it opened my eyes really to how much better it can be for musicians and for music lovers too, not just for the artists. Like, actually experiencing music through the blockchain can be very different for a consumer as well. And yeah, I just learned a lot about not only the blockchain but also the traditional industry and all the things that are wrong with it. So I've kind of taken it upon myself as a cause, and trying to be somewhat of an activist for it and trying to push forward the movement, because ultimately is so that I can continue doing it, for myself, but I want to inspire other people too.
What were some of the moments where you were really like, I've just absolutely had it with the industry? Like, well, do you have like defining moments where you just like were like, nah, like this is wrong, I can't do this?
Yeah, I really think that sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you can go back up, and this kind of
Yeah.
happened to me in 2021. It was still COVID, and I had a manager that I was working with, and she just acted really bad. With me, it was really unfair and very, not cool, and basically made my life a hell, a nightmare for a good while in 2021. And then that was one for sure, where I was like, how am I going to get out of this and like continue? And then later that year, kind of in the fall of 2021, after I recorded my album Moonshot, that then was my first NFT collection, but at the time I didn't know about NFTs yet. I was still kind of shopping it to labels, and yet again, like, their answer was, you don't have enough TikTok views, or you have to build your Spotify. Like, I've been at this for 8 years, and I can't believe that's the only way, like, to make it as a musician, to make a living, like dance on TikTok, like to me it just didn't make sense. And so that's when I went home like for Christmas and I was like, Mom, I think I'm gonna just like switch careers because I hate this. So
I love like
Wow.
almost like, and I see this in a lot of fields, it's like so one-dimensional, the idea of success, you know what I mean? It sounds like you've had a lot of doors like closing in your face and you said like, well, fuck it, I'm going to make my own path and my own door. And it sounds like you like completely fell down like a rabbit hole in your path forward, and like you seem to just have found your thing, because you can tell you're really passionate about like Web3 and stuff. What is like your vision? Because you seem, like I said, you seem really passionate about it and wanting to like make change. And I feel like I can see like a big meaningful vision cooking in your head, and I want to know like what that is.
yeah, for sure. And yes, I've had a lot of doors closing in my face, but I still consider myself lucky. I've had a lot of doors open, as well. I have quite a bit of experience, in Web 2. So at the end of the day, like I'm grateful for those closing doors because there was always a door that opened, maybe one that I didn't expect, that I had to like put an effort in to figure it out where that door was leading me to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for sure. I don't know, like since I started in Web3, I've realized the massive potential of it. And of course, I'm fully invested in it. Like I've pivoted entirely. Like I'm not using Spotify anymore to upload my songs. I don't work with a booking agent or a traditional manager. Like I'm like a purist, like a vegan, like a really hardcore vegan type thing. And also, I want to try and convince people, like hardcore vegans don't accept the fact that you're not like them. So I'm kind of like that. No disrespect if there's any vegans in the room, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Um, but yeah, I mean, my goal, I'm going to be really honest. Like, I look forward and I'm working towards the day where people won't see a difference or won't feel a difference anymore between a song and like a piece of visual art, like just like a piece of visual art is always looked at in a different way. Like, okay, like I can clearly see that this artist put in a lot of time and they have a lot of talent. And this is inspiring and is worthy of being in a gallery in a museum. I, ideally, in an ideal world, I want music to be perceived that way too. Of course, it doesn't have to be all music. Like it's not all visual art. We have like pop art, comics, and everything, But generally, I would like music to have that kind of diversity too, as a art matter. Why is it all the same? Why are we in music? Like jail like that, where there is no difference whether you're Beyonce or you're me. Like we're, exactly the same with the streaming platforms. And, it's just not fair. Not all artists are the same. Not all songs are the same. Not all music is the same. And I think each artist should have the right to achieve goals that are unique to them, So that's my vision.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And it's something that we've spoken about earlier on other spaces. Is about, I feel like as an artist, you have to learn to adapt. And like you were saying, like when one door closes, you made your own, but that's a really brave thing to do and a hard thing to do. And I'm sure that like what you've done, what you're doing now, which is kind of paving this unconventional path, it must be pretty scary sometimes, like with the instability and the not knowing. Like, does it ever kind of scare you a little bit?
Mm, not really. Like, I wouldn't say so. Not scared. I'm definitely challenged, you know. Um, I definitely have to be creative, not just musically, but business wise, and get out of my comfort zone a lot. But it's not scary. I think it would be more scary if I knew I didn't have an alternative. And, if I was still in the old ways, I would be scared. Yes.
That's a good way to put it. And I like the way as well you mentioned about how like music can be associated with an image. Because Base and I were talking earlier, and we are like, well, I wonder what like why the first songs that you chose to inscribe, like why did you choose those ones? Like, because we're saying, like, for example, the Obi one, the first one's quite sentimental to us, being like we call it the heartbeat of Bitcoin. So we're wondering, like, your choice behind your first inscriptions.
Yeah. Well, the first song that I inscribed, that's a very important song to me because it marks actually the 10-year anniversary of my path as a musician. And it was coming up, actually 11th years, pretty much next week, actually on Sunday, May 26th. I keep track because you have to, kind of celebrate the small wins. And I felt like 10 years was a big win, a whole decade. I started when I was 18, May 26th of 2013, like something that changed my life happened. That's when I really got into the music industry, like professionally. And from then I signed a major record deal, one of those bad 360 deals that they cage you in pretty much. So that happened, yeah, almost exactly 11 years ago. And last year it was coming up, and I just kind of was reflecting right in my head about it, trying to like celebrate that moment, try to stop for a minute and look at how where I had gone, where I had come to, and kind of feel happy about it. But also reflecting on the fact that it had taken a turn that I would have never expected. 10 years ago at the age of 18, I wouldn't have thought, okay, now I'm living like in the US in like a southern state, I live in Nashville, which is like really far from culturally from who I am. I'm from Italy, a small city in Italy, and I'm making music in a very unconventional, non-ordinary way, but I am still making music, which is a big win, like I found a way to live in a way that is satisfying to me. So I wrote a song about it, just kind of because to celebrate it. And then I had the idea of inscribing it, marking that big kind of anniversary. And I was talking to Ganzi and from Rare Sat Society, and he was like, we can actually find probably a sat that, I don't know, marks that date. So we actually found an uncommon that was mined on the exact date and pretty much at the exact time that my career, so to speak, started. So
I love that. That's
yeah.
awesome, Az.
Yeah, so that was it, and then I took some time to inscribe the second one because fees kind of skyrocketed, but then I still paid a lot anyway. They they didn't really come down, but yeah, and then I inscribed three more that each have their own meaning, and one of them is like they all have special features to them. I tried to really take advantage of the protocol and all the different features that are offered and the different sat rarities and everything. So yeah, but they're all very much kind of my manifesto. I wanted to keep them as pure and as authentic to me as I could, and to kind of continue that 10 years. After 10 years, I'm not subject to what the industry tells me to do anymore. I can literally do whatever I want and be sincere and honest. So that's what I did with my inscriptions.
It's cool. It almost sounds like you've marked like milestones on your journey in a way. I think like Base had some questions about the inscriptions. He like the sats, I think, didn't you?
Yeah. I just pinned one of your tweets as well at the top there. But I actually had a question. So you've got the one, This Isn't Music, and the sat name is It Isn't Music. And I was like, that is so sick. And I don't even know how you found that sat. So I was going to ask you about that because, yeah, that's really sick. Is it?
I got my dealers. No, yes, that's probably, I mean, probably the coolest feature that I have, I think, in my little collection is that sat name. I couldn't believe it. Like, I still worked with Ganzi, you know, he's a very supportive person of like artists in general, but of musicians, like he's just, you know, since day one, he was like, yeah, I think putting music on Bitcoin is the way. Like he's very, very bullish on it. I think he plays music himself as well. And and he was like, look, like I found this sat. He actually found two. One was it isn't music, and the other was I have a voice. And they were both, you know, really cool. And he was like, you know, you can have one of these if you want. Like he's like, I'm not trying, you know, he's really trying to push the message as well and like support artists that have a message. So he was like, you know, if you want this one, I think it aligns with like what you're trying to say, you know, which is like stop, you know, I almost like don't want music to be like called music anymore. Can we just like call it art or expression? Or because music comes with a bad like taste, you know what I mean? Like, oh, it's just music, you know? And also just kind of reflecting on no, like this isn't music. This is just a recording, you know? Music is so much more. And that's been my mission for the past 2 years, even with my ETH collections and NFTs, where I have quite a big community, over 1,000 people holding my NFTs. My whole goal has been to show people what there is beyond just music. It's not just music, you know, music is the artist, and the music is a little part of what comes from the artist. So I was like, hell, I mean, that's amazing. So I actually wrote a song called This Isn't Music, inspired by the sat name. And it just kind of came, you know, sometime. And that's why I love the ordinals theory, because it's inspiring, you know, it's allowing artists to deepen, you know, their art and their message through the canvas pretty much. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, I'll take that one, you know. And so it's sort of a reference to the Magritte piece. You know, this is not a pipe, right? It is not a pipe. It's just a drawing of a pipe. A pipe is something different, right? So yeah, that's the story.
That's awesome. I knew there'd be some, yeah, cool little story there. Also, uh, you know, your inscription, which is the song that's in Italian, right? Is that
Yeah.
basically is that basically the first Italian song on Bitcoin?
I think so.
I reckon it would be. That's pretty cool.
I think,
Uh,
okay, to be fair, I think there's I don't know who inscribed it, but I think there's a classical piece, like a piece of classical music inscribed, you know, so like with a classical singer, um, inscribed somewhere. But I wouldn't say, I don't think it's an original. You know, I think it's from a composer, classical composer. So maybe we could call this the first original, like Italian song. I don't know.
yeah, definitely. I love that. Yeah, I was like listening to it the other day, and I was like, this is probably like the first actual Italian song.
That one
But,
has my dad on harmonica. Yeah.
ah,
Recording, yeah.
that's cool. I really like that one. I also love, um, I mean, I love them all, yeah. But I actually really like This Isn't Music. Um, I just like the Sats thing as well. I don't know. But now that I heard that the first one, the the 14 million inscription is actually the sat from when you started, like an 11-year anniversary thing. That's actually really cool now. Now that I know that. So yeah, and I guess that kind of makes me wonder now: is there a story to the Black Uncommon sat?
Yes. There always is. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like There's always a story. Somehow. And the way I inscribed these, I also took some time like in between them because I wasn't trying to force it. I didn't inscribe to sell them right away. Like I just wanted to leave my mark, and I wanted to take a step and like show that it was possible, and just decentralize myself even more, right? So I was kind of waiting to have the right song. Maybe I was going to write it, or an inspiration would come, or a set that would come around that inspired something. And I wrote the song No Cages on Halloween of 2023, so not so long ago, like October 31st, 2023. And the song is still kind of about like liberty, like freeing yourself from someone who has way more power than you and wants to cage you in. And they try and they try, but even if they have more power than you, they still can't. They can free your body but not really ever free your mind. Sorry, they can cage your body but not really ever cage your mind. And so I wrote that song, and then I was like, this is kind of like a spell, So I decided to do almost like a spell, cast it on the world and on Bitcoin, like with music, right? Music is definitely magic. And so I decided to take a black uncommon, because it's kind of like, spooky in it. And it's mined the same day the song was written, on Halloween. So it's a Halloween black set. And then I reinscribed, so I inscribed the lyrics. I'm sorry, I just woke up. I inscribed the visual and the art, and then as a parent, and then as a child, I reinscribed on the same set. So it's got two inscriptions with the lyrics, because the lyrics are the actual like curse, and so it's a cursed inscription reinscribed on the same black Halloween. It's all very weird. You know what I mean? It's kind of hacky, but like ordinal with two inscription. One is blessed and it's the parent with the music, and one is cursed and it's the child with the lyrics on the black uncommon. So it's just got all this like, the two inscriptions will never be able to be apart, right? And in my head, it was almost like a vinyl. Think of a vinyl with the record inside, right? And the sleeve, the insert with the lyrics. Like those two things can be separated, lost in the real world. On Bitcoin, they will always be together. So it's like this blessed song that I hope it's going to bring me blessings, but it's always got a curse with it, with the lyrics that almost like casting a shadow on the whole thing. So yeah, this kind of spooky vibe.
Wow. I didn't even I did not even know any of that. That is actually pretty cool. Yeah, so that is why your inscriptions being like one of one as well, and like you said, you didn't do them to sell them, blah blah blah. Like these are like actually special. You know what I mean? And it takes like someone to really have a look as well, to actually notice some things. Like, some people might not have even known about that sat name, so it's like it adds a lot of that little collectible type Easter eggs, and Easter eggs, but even just with your life that people wouldn't even know. But yeah, it's like it's actually really cool.
Yeah, we love when there's lots of like dimensions
Yeah,
to a piece and layers to it, and Easter eggs.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I just think that it's like so awesome. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I really think that we have so much available with ordinals. We should use it. Like artists are always looking for ways to deepen their message and get it out there, and sort of make the experience fun and gamify it, and also I know that if someone notices these things, it's because they really looked at it. And it's kind of what I'm trying to do to contrast as well, like the really passive consumption, like fast food consumption of music in the real world. It's like, oh yeah, whatever pops up on my Spotify, I'm just gonna like eat, and I'm gonna get fed whatever this algorithm wants me to take, and I'm not even gonna look into it. I could be listening to whoever, and I wouldn't know. And I want to make it the opposite. Like I want to make it like you have to experience this as a piece of art with many different layers of meaning underneath that you can keep discovering. I feel like a great piece of art or music continues to surprise you over the years, and that's kind of what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that because I was going to bring that up. Something that I noticed is you have your art hard to access, and you've called it friction. You create friction, and you don't make your art so accessible. So it's like, you have to buy it as a vinyl or something like that. And I think that's really cool because in my eyes, it's almost like you're setting the standard of like, no, like my art is worth something. Like you can pay for it, or like, and I really respect that because it almost demands respect as an artist. But like, what's your your mentality around that? Because that must be a bit scary to like not be on Spotify and things, and like my mind would be going like, oh shit, like I'm losing out. Like I know that you believe that you're not, but like yeah, what's like your mentality behind that, and do you get scared about that?
Yeah, like it's weird, right? Because any normal person would probably think, whatever, just put your songs on Spotify. You got nothing to lose, right? Like that's what they would say, and I understand that. But for me, it's a really long-term mission. I am convinced it's going to work out, right? It may not, but I'm convinced it will. Otherwise, I wouldn't be spending so much time on it every day. I'm not insecure about it at all. Because I feel like the transformation that happened to me between where I was before and where I am now, just in terms of like, conviction, it's crazy. If it happened to me, it could happen to anybody. And it could happen to the whole industry. So I'm not worried. And I'm also taking things to the extreme right now. I'm not going to lie. Like, I want to counteract the really bad shit that is happening in the traditional world with like something extremely on the opposite end. It doesn't have to be forever like that, sometime one day maybe, I'll be a little more flexible with things. But at the end of the day, like if you want to consume my music for free, you absolutely can still. You just have to go to OpenSea or go to ord.io, and click play. But that slight level of friction like will allow me to realize who is actually paying to get closer to me as an artist. And I don't mean paying with money necessarily, but even paying with your time and your effort, like figuring out how to make videos play, MP4s play on or.io is a challenge sometimes. So if you spend your time, even 5 minutes, trying to refresh the page just to listen to my song, I mean, that means a lot to me. And I want to know who you are, and why you did it. I want to get to know you. So, I think it gives me a better grasp of who the people are that are in my radar that I can associate with as well. Because that's also a big issue with Spotify. They don't tell you. They give you the illusion that people are enjoying your stuff, but you don't know. You don't know who they are. There's just numbers on a screen. It doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah, that's cool. I really like that. And I really resonate with what you're saying because I feel like a similar thing where I know that like for me personally, my path isn't like conventional or whatever. And I've walked away, like done things like deleted Instagram because like my heart's just told me like there's another path and you got to take that. Just do it one step at a time, even if you can't see it. Just have faith. And like, even though for me, I do find it a bit scary, but I find it exhilarating at the same time because I just know like in my heart it's the right path. And like, you kind of got to, it's like do or die in a way. Like you got to adapt or die, I feel sometimes. So like, yeah, I feel like what you mean. And I think that's like a cool way to do it. But like, at the very least, it's like kind of groundbreaking in a way, like you're doing something different. Like, and that's really exciting. And yeah.
I think I actually think the friction thing is actually really good. Um, like to separate yourself from, you know, just the everyday people. But like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I feel like it, like in some time, I don't know how long, but like it's almost going to be looked at as your, basically what you're trying to say is like, you know, I'm a legit artist, blah blah blah. I don't need, you know, the normal stuff to, you know, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like, I feel like it's going to work in the long run. Like it's going to work out that in the long run, people like Violetta, who's just stuck to their guns and like,
Yeah.
you know, writing it out from now, and even doing cool things like on ordinals. And you know, when people look back and go, oh, you know, Violetta inscribed at 14 million this song on this sat, special sat to her, like it means something to her. And you know, inscriptions might be at like 500 million. And that's gonna look like the coolest shit. Like it's gonna just, you know, that, like what I'm trying to say is, in enough time that you will be like, I don't know what the word is, like you would have mad respect. I think. And
Because she can almost is like saying like in that act, like, no, like my art is valuable in a way, and I feel like you kind of set this tone, like, and have that it kind of teaches other people to value it, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's like slowly people will agree, you know, like it'll eventually start to become more and more people that agree. And you know, some parts, like some people will actually go that path, and then I don't know.
I mean, I think that already, like, the people in this community agree, you know, like, they definitely see it. But I don't know if everyone sees, like we were talking about last night, you know, I don't know if they see the huge potential that this thing has. And it's going to take a really long time, you know, and I think the friction will add to the organic growth of it. You know, I don't expect this to be a hype, you know, moment, because we all know like what goes up must come down. Like if there is too much hype, it's definitely not sustainable. Whereas I see this as like actually the natural progression of where music is going, as a whole thing. So yeah, I think it will, you know, I think people but they already see it. It's just regular people don't see it necessarily, you know, normies. They're just kind of, although they see it more with music, let me tell you, like they see it more than music than with regular JPEGs. I'm sorry to say this, you know. Like it's true, you know what I mean? Like people, like whenever I talk about NFTs or ordinals with my like normie friends, they're like, I mean, I get it with music, like there's an artist or like, you know, music industry bad and stuff, but like why JPEGs? Like it's harder for them to understand that, you know, than the music. So that's telling somewhat, I think.
But do you think that like many musicians are actually seeing it though?
Now, musicians are not. Normie musicians are not. And even Web3 musicians struggle with seeing it with ordinals specifically. I think, you know, musicians have like this generational trauma that they, you know, they struggle to get out of. And I had it too, you know. I was really convinced, like when I fell out with my former manager, I was like, how am I going to do this by myself? And then I realized there was no problem, you know. So they're just very insecure, and that's why I want to try and show, you know, that it is possible. Like I don't expect someone else to do it, you know, because it's crazy. So yeah, I just hope that they're going to see and see that they can do it too.
Yeah.
Such an interesting way to look at it, like the generational trauma around music. Like I feel that.
Yeah. I think that like together collectively we are going to prove some points, and we just need to work together. I'm just gonna get Jim up here.
Yeah,
I think
I'd love to hear you guys talk about this.
yeah, I want to hear Jim
Yeah.
spitting some facts here. What's up, Jim?
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
What's up, man?
GM.
Hello, GM. Lovely to see you again, Violetta. It's really great hearing some of your ideas and your words about friction and stuff. It's just, I think it is really important. It's a big part of what we're doing here. Ultimately, this friction is the thing that we have to overcome because we are doing the right thing. But it is not going to get everyone's interest or imagination straight away. And that's why doing things like what we're doing, what ordinal based ones are doing now is going to be really important in capturing people's imagination, showing people simplistic forms of what's possible, even if it's gamifying it to start with. But then slowly the reality will dawn on people that there is real utility here. It reaches well outside the sphere of crypto. Certainly in 10 years of working in crypto, it's very exciting to be, a part of this, but it really is the first thing that I've really worked on that genuinely felt like it is going to bridge that gap. We just have to, there's a number of gaps to bridge. It's very much a chicken egg situation, and it is going to take a long time. But initiatives like this just give us the opportunity to speed things up a bit. But yeah, I'm certainly not out sort of jumping around saying this is going to change the world next year. It has begun to change the world. This whole movement that we're a part of, this very small thing right now, is 100% changing the world as we speak. But its effects are infinitesimally small right now. But I think that we are setting the stage, and it will slowly happen. We're getting more and more interest. I've been building the technology out to try and make it easier. This friction convenience thing is kind of about value. If the value isn't there, then there's no tolerance for friction. Everyone is just obsessed with convenience. As the value starts to settle in, the friction becomes more acceptable. But I also liked what you were saying earlier, based about being like restricted in the way you can create. I love that as well. One of my favorite songs that I ever wrote was arriving somewhere overseas and realizing I think I'd forgotten all my cables. So I had all of my equipment, but I had no way of plugging any of it into my laptop. And so I had to make do with, if I was going to record audio, it was going to be through my little laptop microphone. If I was going to play a keyboard, it was going to be using the keys on my laptop. And I devised a plan, and I really loved it. It was so invigorating, stepping outside of my comfort zone. And actually I got right into doing, because like every single part of writing that song was kind of new to me. It was none of it. I had not ever done any of it when I'd actually been writing actual music in those methods. And so I think as a creator, sometimes we can really love that. And this might be one of those moments. That's, I think, our best chance of getting the creators in really is through their imagination, doing something new, doing something that has the chance to be something, that at some point in the future you might say, I was standing on the edge of history at that point. And so I think that's, there's a, what's the word? Trying to think of the right word here, but it's an emotional, what is the word I'm looking for? Romanticizing. I was just trying to think. It's kind of, I feel like now that's the best I can do, is kind of try to romanticize it, make it fun, make it as easy as possible, but also romanticize the fact that it's totally different, that you're doing something, you've just crossed the threshold of something that happens. It's a once in 1,000-year event, so take hold of it, take control of it. Don't sit back and wait for everybody to start moving in that direction. It's just not like that. But eventually we'll get these big artists, we'll get someone to write a hit. That's partly why I've just been trying to get the tech working to the point where I can get one of these artists. We spoke to one of the managers at Def Jam, and it's like there's different labels that are sort of all starting to sort of look around, and it's like they don't know where the boundaries are. I don't know where the boundaries are, but I can show them or I don't know where the boundaries will end up. I can kind of show them where they are now. They're remarkably close and all around you. But it's like finding the right people to do this, to get into this environment, bit of the pioneer spirit. If we get a hit on our hands, that's when things get really interesting. That's when, a lawyer gets involved. I mean, when that happens, that's fucking massive. It's like, for me, that's going to be a major milestone. It's like the minute there's like an artist who's like done something with this platform, and for whatever reason, there's now a lawyer dealing with some aspect of it, because that's how we change the landscape. That's the beginning of the reformation, if you like, changing lanes, shifting everything about until it's bigger and bigger and bigger lawyers, bigger and bigger and bigger meetings, until
lawyers. Love it.
Yeah, I'm like, why do we want lawyers in here?
I know, but that's where it's going to come from, unfortunately. That's how we get to the performing rights organizations ultimately. The performing rights organizations is the ultimate target. They have to agree that we have built the correct framework, the correct way, in the right place, and that it's serving more people than they are, better than they are. And that's going to take and like I said, there's chicken egg situations in here. This network can't support us like the performing rights organizations can. It's going to be sovereign in here. It's going to be goodwill until it crosses over to them. That it's just going to be debatable as to how it's benefiting. So again, I don't quite see how it gets there, other than a big movement, some big hits, and then some big musicians. Imagine Taylor Swift. If this had been 5 years ago, the Taylor Swift re-recording of her albums could have been a very different thing, And again, I've spoken to Violetta about this. The biggest problem we have really with a lot of traditional styles of music is this thing with fresh recordings. If you are someone who writes music and it's very fresh and it's very, it's every song has its own feel. Your only real option is to cut those things up and put them online if you're recording fresh vocals and fresh guitars. And so this is one of the ways where people need to look for ways to be fluid around this situation. Like maybe if you are a person who is working with some elements of produced music, then start to consider like what happens if we create a hybrid. Like I create some music that there's an element of it that I perform, even an element that people can like listen to on my website, where the backing track is only playing from the chain. Like that's how it is if I perform it live. This part of the track is playing from the chain. If you hear it on my website, you are hearing it, mix it live. You're hearing my current vocals that I really like and everything, but mixed live in with this hybrid thing. I don't know exactly where that would lead to, but I just think it's a good thought experiment to kind of start playing around with. And then for other things, like with Violetta, I don't know if we sort of mentioned this last time, but I was talking to you about, trying to create music that has like an inherent reusable factor. So you create like a song that can be cut up. You create it in a particular tempo, particular key, particular phrasing, that you're like almost thinking this is a remix at the start, and then vocals that are also recorded in such a way to try to encourage like a real, because as far as remixing is concerned, this is like the perfect environment for it. Whatever you get on there, all the recordings that these artists have, like Violetta, we were talking last week about a French Montana, and Rare Skrilla, all of these people who have actual music there, we can already do this. And I am in the process of asking people to try to put together templates, like also Violetta, if you have like a particular song, I think we spoke about this as well, like if you have a particular song that would work as a sort of good remix template, send me the link and maybe some sections that you think would make good loops, and then I can create a template in the sequencer where those loops that you've selected are just available. They're like maybe 8 of the tracks are just those loops cut up and ready to go. We've set the tempo. We could add the key there somewhere, and then people can just come in and just start to chop and change it. And then we can again start to just demonstrate this model. And that's a very simple model of direct remixing. But once we get further down the line, 20 years time, some of those remixes might have ended up being inscribed and they've now been heard, and someone else took an element of those and reused them. And eventually a sample from Violetta's song could have been turned into a completely unrelated sound, as happens a lot in the real world with resampling. But we don't have to, I mean, it still just links to Violetta. It kind of sounds almost like magic or something, but it's actually just frighteningly simple. And I think in 20, 30 years, we'll look back and we'll say, wow, man, wow, we operated in such an unfair environment that was completely reliant on trust. And we'll laugh about it, hopefully, probably in the same way people will laugh about the fact we were able to drive our own cars. But it's like, I think it'll just be one of those things where we'll look back and be like, wow, man, that's crazy. So you had to like go and like find what you thought was your sample and then somehow prove to someone without any actual proof that it was your sample. And it's like, yeah, people did that all the time. People spent millions doing that. Whereas now you just click a button and it goes yes or no, you know. So I think, this is the beginning. It'll take a long time to get there, but I think having voices like Violetta and also that pioneering spirit like Violetta is important. We just got to keep growing the enthusiasm, growing the voices. We know people who are in this little space. Every now and then, it happens to me daily, we get these little red, orange, blue, whatever you want to call it, pill moments when people go, whoa, okay, holy shit. That's massive, isn't it? It's like, yes, it's fucking massive. And so we just got to keep that going, until we get to that critical mass and then get to the good artists. Things will fall into place bit by bit, So let's just keep moving forwards with it all.